Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies? That's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends. Same adorable designs in different cuts for each of you. All made from their signature ultramodal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 five-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST. That's MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.
Welcome to Movie Oubliette, the film review podcast for movies that most people have mercifully forgotten.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Conrad, and in each episode, we drag a forsaken film out of the oubliette.
Discuss it and judge it to decide whether it should be set free
or whether it should be thrown back and consigned to oblivion forever. We review the films others tend to forget. Come with us and open up the movie oubliette. Tally-ho, and welcome to episode 190 of Movie Oubliette, the time zone spanning podcast for forgotten fantastical films, with me, Conrad, trying to remember what work is in Cambridge, UK.
And me, Dan, currently on fire in Melbourne, Australia.
Oh dear. We focus on forgotten fantasy, sci-fi and horror films because we love quantum leaping into world wars, microwaving Germans, and flashing our taint at nuns.
Oh.
Hello, Dan.
Wow.
Sorry. Yeah, that's an intro. How's your taint? It's a bit warm down there, I understand.
Yes, it is quite warm. We experienced 44 degrees Celsius on Friday, which is like 111 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, I think, the hottest day I've experienced in like 7 years or something, or maybe even longer. It's been a while since we've had temperatures like that.
That's incredible. We did have a record in Cambridge a few years back, which I think was like 40.8 or something. But
I mean, yeah, once it hits the 40s, the world is ending. It's like Armageddon. Like no one goes to work. Everyone just goes to the mall. It's dire conditions.
Going to the cinema just so you can sit in the air conditioning,
Yes.
which apparently is one of the reasons Jaws was a big success.
Oh, really? Ah, okay.
Yeah, people were going to see it lots of times because it was cool.
We've also had, unfortunately, a lot of bushfires at the moment. And so the air quality is awful. There's like ash everywhere. Like all the cars are covered in ash at the moment. But we've had some cooler temperatures recently, so hopefully they'll get that sort of under control.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
But meanwhile, work, how's it going?
Yeah, this is just, as we're recording, this was my first week back after a week and a half of just eating things and watching television. So, yeah, getting my brain back in gear has been somewhat of a struggle.
Yeah, I mean, Happy New Year, by the way, as well. 2026.
Welcome back. Yeah, another year of movie oublietting. Unfortunately, we are not alone because we are joined today by a man of outstanding professional competence, great moral clarity, and stoicism tempered with an understated, dry sense of humour. No, he isn't James Bigglesworth. It's Michael French of Retro Blasting. Hello, sir.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I always love being on the show, and I can't wait to talk about the subject. So
yes.
yes. I mean, before we get into it, let's read out some mailbag for today, Conrad.
Yes, indeed. So we heard from James Aronson on Flight of Dragons. This was a big hit with me as a kid. Owned it on VHS and watched it a lot. I haven't seen it, though, in like 30 years, but your discussion reminded me of so many scenes. Admittedly, I didn't notice any of the plot inconsistency as a kid. I loved the dragon interactions and the theme tune. I have to agree that the final battle was always a bit weird, quite Phantom Toll Booth with Milo's use of maths and words to defeat the bad guys, but that fit better with that world's internal logic. Now, that is a reference I don't get. Michael, do you know what he's talking about there?
Yes, Phantom Tollbooth was a popular children's movie in the 80s in the U.S. I don't think it was actually from the 80s. I think it was just something that got aired a lot on American television, but it wasn't one of my go-tos, but I knew a lot of kids that had seen it. I saw it back in the ether of my childhood once, but I haven't seen it since. It's a somewhat notable children's movie over here. So
and it's animated as well.
I believe it's live action. And I'm pretty sure it's based on a book.
Okay.
Everybody check me in angry comments if you want to. Just tell me how I got that wrong.
It's another one that I don't think has made it across the Atlantic, but whenever I say that, I get angry comments as well saying, you just didn't see it, you're a fool. Yeah.
It didn't make my radar. What does that say about it? Because I watch a lot of stuff. So
I did too, and we only had 4 channels, so it was hard to miss anything.
Right.
We also heard from Lisa MD23 on Curse of the Cat People, our final episode of the year last year. And Lisa said, I haven't watched this film for a long time. I tend to revisit Cat People over this, as I remember being slightly disappointed with the Disney vibes here, whereas the first film isn't afraid to lean into something darker. Incidentally, despite being a black and white film fan anyway, I first watched Cat People because of the book Kiss of the Spider Woman, where this is one of the films Molina recounts to entertain his cellmate.
I think they've just made a remake of Kiss of the Spider Woman, haven't they?
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
It's got Jennifer Lopez in it, I think.
Oh, okay. She's a very talented lady.
I don't think it's done very well.
Oh. And finally, we've heard from Serge of Cold Crash Pictures. Oh. Happy New Year, Serge.
Happy New Year, Serge.
I don't like Curse of the Cat People because I can appreciate its bold lyrical stylings and I like the fact that it's trying something completely different as opposed to a tired retread, but I just couldn't dial in. Didn't buy into any of the stakes whatsoever. I'd probably still vote to set it free from the movie Oubliette, though. Like, it's not bad or anything. It's just weird and understated to the point of being anticlimactic.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he didn't like it. I'm always disappointed when Serge doesn't like a film that we watch.
I feel like he doesn't tend to like the films that I like. I don't know.
Interesting.
But it could be a generational thing because I have a bias for 90s and 2000s.
Yeah. Well, this is from the 40s, so I'm not sure.
Well, I don't. Yeah. I also have a bias for older films as well. So it's that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, as always, we do love hearing from you, so keep those comments and emails coming in.
Yes.
So, Michael, you are one of the few people qualified to enter the Oubliette to fetch the movie. Would you like to do the honors today?
Oh.
Before he does that, we have to mention what he's wearing today. I mean, he is fully equipped.
He is fully equipped.
I was told what we might be talking about, and I felt like I needed to be prepared for any eventuality. I know I look ridiculous, but I do feel ready. So
it's a full aviation get-up, right?
Yes, it's a full British aviation get-up. Yes.
It's very impressive.
Complete with deactivated Victorian sidearm and a pair of spy glasses, or field glasses, as the officers like to say. Yep. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you are well positioned to enter the Oubliette, sir. On your way.
All right. I'll head there now. Ow! You did not tell me I was going in via lightning strike. I'm supposed to walk. I always walk.
Oh, that's new.
Yes.
I'm in a muddy pit.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, this isn't a pit. This is a trench. All right. I think I've got the movie. Wait a minute. How do I get Ow!
I've been expecting you, Mr. Ferguson.
Oh, there you are.
I think we need to cancel the lightning strike into the oubliette from now on. I don't like the lightning strike method, and there really needs to be a trigger warning or something before, using it.
Yeah, a bit of a health hazard.
Yeah, I mean, you could have been in the shower or something when it happened.
I could have. Yeah. I could have been shaving in a towel.
Yeah.
You never know.
You never know.
So what did you manage to rescue from the muddy trenches for us?
I have something here. It's called Biggles,
Ah.
and it's from 1986.
Mm.
Biggles was directed by John Hoff, who is famous for American Gothic and The Legend of Hell House. It was written by John Groves and Ken Walwyn, based, of course, on the W.E. Johns Biggles books, which, I mean, them saying that at all is pretty thin at this point, but I'll just ride right past that. And it has a notable, dare I say, incessant 80s theme song ballad, which was a collaboration between Stanislas, I can't pronounce his last name, and I'm usually pretty good at those kind of things, and the lead singer of Yes. And I love Yes. So I recognized the vocals in this kind of right away. And I thought, I know that voice. It couldn't be. And then yes, it was.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's a film that had a budget of about £7 million. It was shot entirely in the UK. And then it had a middling reception, but much like with Beastmaster, because of the advent of home video and cable movie channels, Biggles apparently made back all of its money and became a cult hit after it left movie theaters. So,
what happens in this movie?
Okay, let me gather my thoughts and my loins. The story of Biggles, as told in the 1986 version, is you have an 80s business guy played by Alex Hyde White. His name is Jim Ferguson, which couldn't be a more generic name for a character. If I was to play a character named Jim Ferguson, knowing that the guy next to me was playing a character named James Bigglesworth, I'd be like, I'm at a loss here. I don't know. I'm definitely window dressing at this point. He is an 80s wannabe business yuppie who is approached by Peter Cushing late in the evening after coming back from a sort of planning session for a product announcement rollout. They're going to have a big presentation about some dumb celebrity dinner idea. And Peter Cushing asks him if something unusual has happened to him already. And he says, I don't know what you're talking about, old man. And then he's super rude to him. And he says, go away. I'm busy. I have this presentation tomorrow. So no. I was like, wow, this guy's a dick. And so then he goes back to his living room and immediately he's transported through a lightning storm into the trench warfare of World War I at night. And a biplane crashes in front of him. He rescues the pilot, who happens to be James Bigglesworth, a.k.a. Biggles. And right as he's figuring out that Biggles was on a photo reconnaissance mission and didn't retrieve the photographs from the airplane, he is just as randomly sent back to the 80s right into his living room, and he has no idea what happened. And so as his life quickly goes on in the first few minutes of the movie, he keeps getting dragged back into World War I at different time periods without warning. So now he realizes that Peter Cushing was telling the truth, and he's got to go visit him in London. And Peter Cushing has a very cushy, see what I did there? He has a very cushy room in Tower Bridge. And he finds out that he is supposed to lean into this phenomenon to get the photos, to get them developed, to help Biggles stop a German sonic experimental weapon that could turn the tide of World War I.
Wow.
Yeah. And then all rules, which there were barely any to begin with, go right out the window. Like, they don't even have a Gwildor and a cosmic key in this one. It's just more like, whenever we decide to pull him back into the past or whatever, we're just going to do that. Hey, by the way, we're going to give you a World War I uniform in case you get sent back to the past, but we're also going to include an Uzi for no reason whatsoever. Like, it's a crazy film. I love the fact that it starts with a yes ballad, that pseudo yes ballad. I don't love the fact that that ballad keeps getting used like 15 times in the movie, and I'm not really able to plug into the massively just, it couldn't be more 80s if it tried in the opening seconds with the credit sequence. I'm like, wow, it's like a Kylie Minogue album logo in New York City and this rockin' song, and I'm going, this is about a World War I aviator? Are we sure?
It makes an impression.
Oh.
So we have a lot to talk about
Yes.
after the break. And we're back to explore Biggles adventures in time. Michael, this is your first time watching this film. Could you set the scene for us in terms of Biggles?
So Biggles is based on a series of novels that were written by one W.E. Johns. They started in the early 1930s. They were British novels for adolescents and teens, and they were based very loosely on his experiences as a Royal Flying Corps and eventually Royal Air Force officer in World War I. And he's this, upstanding, gentlemanly British officer adventurer. He would continue to write these popular books for decade on decade on decade. From what I understand, Biggles was much like a comic book character, like Batman, in the sense that even though he was created in the 30s, there is no sense of aging continuity. So Biggles never got older, like The Simpsons. They've been on for 30 years, but they've never aged. So Biggles ends up fighting in every war in these novels because I think Johns wrote over or right at 100 of them. In the 50s, Biggles' popularity kind of had a resurgence, but with younger children. And so they turned around and republished many of the novels. And when they did, they kind of light censored some of them because they were now being aimed at younger kids rather than teens. And by 1966, I think it was, they started talking about a movie. And originally, there were a number of interesting people that were raising their hands to be in a Biggles movie as the character of Bigglesworth. Dudley Moore wanted to be Biggles at one point. Yeah. But they never could get the project off the ground. And then when they finally did, it had landed in the hands of a producer who, for some reason, despite the writers having done a first full draft, and they had been greatly inspired by, no surprise, Raiders of the Lost Ark. So they had done a draft of Biggles that was set in the time period just like the original character was, and they were going to do this period adventure piece. But the producers decided at the last minute that they needed a sci-fi element. And they decided to make it a time travel thing, which to me sounds a little bit like what the people on Masters of the Universe did.
Right.
Where they're like, well, we don't really want to, film this in Eternia, so we're going to make them film it around a fried chicken restaurant in the 80s. Right? And what we get is the 1986 movie Biggles, which happens to be Peter Cushing's final major feature film role.
Yes.
And then it's also kind of a first for a lot of the actors that star in it, including Alex Hyde White and Neil Dixon. Both were coming into this as first-time movie stars. Neil Dixon plays the title character, Biggles, and then Alex Hyde White is he's the Courtney Cox of this particular thing. He is to Biggles what Courtney Cox is to Masters of the Universe. He's just this created character that tries to stitch this movie to an 80s time travel flip-flop thing.
So I knew nothing about Biggles despite being English, which I'm deeply ashamed of. Dan, did you know anything about Biggles, and had you seen this film before?
Well, I hadn't seen this film before. I didn't know this film existed. But I did know about Biggles because I used to read Biggles when I was a kid. Well, I think I've read maybe one or two books. I don't think I read a huge amount. But I grew up reading a lot of secondhand books. Like, my favorite thing was going to secondhand bookshops and buying like 20-cent books or like garage sales or the library. I was really into old books. I read a lot of Famous Five growing up. The Three Investigators, a lot of that. And Biggles would come up as well because everyone's trying to get rid of their old dusty Biggles books from like the 60s. I had no idea this was such an old series in terms of the novels. I had no idea it was from the 30s to the 60s. So yeah, I expected, this is going to be a great movie set in World War One, only set in World War One, and then we're going to have plane dog fights and shooting and adventures. And then I watched this. And I thought, what were they thinking?
Yeah, from that perspective, it is a little bit of a disappointment. I mean, if you were grandpa taking your 80s kid to the cinema to enjoy a fun Biggles extravaganza and you could tell your World War I stories, you were going to be bitterly disappointed. I suspect this was not the generation-spanning nostalgia trip that I think Back to the Future was, for example. There are lots of rumours that Back to the Future tipped their hand in terms of the development of this, but it doesn't quite stack up in terms of timing because it wasn't released until December of 1985, and I believe they pretty much finished shooting because they were desperate to get it all done before some tax break in the UK ended.
That's correct. The Back to the Future rumor doesn't line up chronologically. Yeah. They just thought we needed a sci-fi element, and they chose time travel. And I'm going, you literally had two screenwriters that understood that Raiders of the Lost Ark was also a really big hit. So you could have done that, and Biggles would have been perfectly suited for that. And you have a British production unit that is very capable with it at their fingertips to recreate World War I. You see it in the movie when they're in the trenches, when they're, having the battles in the tunnels and stuff. It's really decent. Like the production value is fine. And you're going, amazing. You could have done this. And you guys decided that this producer over here, who is the equivalent of a guy in his late 40s today saying, ooh, straight fire. Like these people who are always trying to be plugged into youth culture, even though they're older now. I swear that's what I visualize as the person who produced this movie.
Yeah.
They were like, you know what we need in here? We've got to have some sci-fi because the kids love the sci-fi. Oh, and let's get some British punks in there because the kids love the colored hair. Like it's...
Yeah. And let's make every action sequence a music video with 80s music. And I mean, it's interesting that the sci-fi time travel element, because I thought he's just going to get zapped into the past, and then that's the movie. The whole movie's him in the past trying to get back to the present, like every other time travel to the past movie, like Back to the Future.
Yeah,
but it's not.
No.
It's just constant zapping.
Constant.
Backwards and forwards.
Yeah. To quote the guy that operated Jabba the Hutt's tail, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And I can't figure out why, after they achieved so much good production design on the World War I elements, that they still felt like, no, we've got to do it this way. I mean, there is some charm to the idea of Biggles seeing his commanding officer, played by Peter Cushing, in the future as an old man. It's a very nice moment.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that Peter Cushing could have definitely been utilized in a World War I only Biggles movie to great effect. I don't think that was, you know what I mean? Like the best parts of the movie could have all been true to the original novels. This whole idea of a World War I German superweapon, and as you so rightly pointed out, everything was constantly a music video, usually with the same song. Hey, Dan, do you want to be a hero? Do you want to be a hero? Do you want to be a hero? Like, I got Groundhog Day very quickly by the film.
Yeah. Because the whole 80s-ness of it really kind of takes you out of the movie.
Yes.
Like, you really get immersed in the World War I stuff. And like you said, the production value is immense.
Yeah.
Like, it's like Saving Private Ryan level of production in some of those scenes. It's really incredible. But then you insert 80s pop song with like orchestral hits and like massive 80s drums. And being zapped backwards and forwards, it just really takes you out of it. I mean, they use it for comedic impact, I guess, but I don't know. It takes you out of the seriousness and the sort of the adventure of World War I.
Right, because you have no time to allow it to build its own momentum. You're constantly being reminded, oh, remember, we're still a hip 80s movie, kids. We're still real, in with it. We're cool. No, the cool thing would have been to take us through a World War I adventure, even with a time-traveling fish out of water. If you insist on it, just... Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, because I'm asking myself while I'm watching it, what did we gain from having this two-time period approach? Is the problem that Biggles, perhaps as a character on screen, doesn't translate because people don't want somebody who isn't on a character arc, is just a very competent person who has a dry wit and a deep-seated sense of honor and decency? And you think, well, no, actually, that's James Bond, so we know that kind of character works as escapist entertainment. So do we gain another character through which we gain a sort of window into this world, or an on-ramp so that he can ask lots of questions? Do we gain some fish out of water comedy from his experience of being there? And my answer is no, because This guy asks no questions, shows barely sort of mild astonishment at what's happening to him, but not a lot. He just sort of
Very mild.
gets into a Sopwith Camel and flies into potentially his death, but he doesn't comment on it. Like, even when he's asked to take over the controls and barrel rolls into a death spiral, they cut to his face, and it's obviously footage of Alex Hyde White in the back of a plane during one of these maneuvers, and he's just blank. There's nothing there at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no fish out of water comedy beyond him, being zapped at inopportune moments, and just the sort of visual fun of seeing him and his present day girlfriend. What's her name? Debbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, she shows up with her big 80s hair and her fur coat and her red dress, and she's in the trenches in World War One, and everybody else is covered in shit looking at her. So it's mildly amusing for about 0.5 of a second. And in terms of a character arc, does he have an arc? Does he become a better person? Does he go back to the 80s and win that TV dinner deal? No, I think the lady that he was trying to impress, she made a big order off screen. Like, he hears about, it's like a telephone message he hears about in Act 1. Oh yeah, you've won. It's worked. Where are the stakes? Where's the arc for this character? Why do I care about this character? So I'm just in terms of the concept and the story structure, I'm just a bit at a loss as to what we're gaining. And the reviews I've read that are affectionate, and they were mixed contemporarily, the ones that are sort of kind are just saying it's always entertaining. There's never a dull moment.
It's entertaining, but at the same time, I'm flabbergasted why I'm seeing what I'm seeing.
Right.
Like a lot of the stunts were incredible.
Oh yeah.
But for no reason.
Yes.
Like you've got Jim Ferguson hanging outside of a helicopter while it's spinning around uncontrollably for a long time. And he doesn't seem to be wanting to get back into the helicopter. He doesn't seem very fazed at all. He seems very calm. And I just think, why did I watch that amazing stunt? For? Like, it's engaging, but it doesn't really add anything to the scene or the movie. It just looks great.
Yes.
And there are a lot of scenes where, yeah, that looks really good. But why? Why did we watch that?
It proves that they can stage up some really good stuff, but then there's no, like you said, point in doing so, and there's no logic behind a lot of it. The two scenes that you both just mentioned, I made tons of mental footnotes just trying to not go mad when I was watching it on those. One, if Biggles is such an experienced aviator, which he is, why did he not wait for Ferguson to get in the second seat before he just took off in that helicopter? And he's hanging from the outside. Similarly, he told Ferguson in the biplane with the machine gun post behind the main seat, he told him, take the stick and just hold it steady.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, it goes into a death spiral. Well, guess what?
It does.
That means Ferguson has to have done that. He has to have taken that yoke and gone, like, that's not holding it steady. That's, I'm going to kill us both. And I'm going to do it for reason. Like,
Maybe to get out of the movie.
yeah. And because you saw the sociopathic look on his face as he was spiraling. He was just like, we're both going to die now. I'm taking you with me.
Yeah.
But Bigglesworth never asks him why after he gets control of the plane again. He just acts like it's another Thursday. He's just like, all right, I can take the stick now. And you're going,
Did you just experience that?
He literally did the opposite of what you told him to do. I have had stick time in a number of airplanes, including a Supermarine Spitfire.
Oh, wow.
But I'm not a pilot in any way. But from the simulators that you do, the arcade games that you play that are, well made, they will give you the instincts, the basic instincts to keep a plane in the air under calm weather. Like, you can't necessarily take off on your own without training or land without training. But if you're up in the air and the pilot's like, hey, can you hold this for a minute while I eat my Watsits, or whatever? Like, you can do that. It's not hard. That guy, Ferguson, tried to kill them both in that scene. So to your point, Dan, stunt that was executed on in a very impressive way from what I believe was one of the stunt coordinators, aviation coordinators behind the movie Battle of Britain, if I recall. Yet there was no point to it other than to raise questions for us, like why?
Yeah. There are a lot of impressive things in the film that just smack of it's the 80s and there is no health and safety. Like there are guys jumping from one building to another in like a
huge
blitz
jumps.
Industrial hellhole that they also filmed Full Metal Jacket in, if I remember rightly, the same year. You've got a helicopter flying backwards through Tower Bridge. You've got a helicopter landing on a moving train, which I believe was a first at the time. You've got all this stuff that you look at it and think the only reason that this is happening is because there's no health and safety in the UK in the 80s whatsoever, and this will never happen again. Right. And it's eye-popping, but again, it's to no avail. It's like in service of nothing, because it doesn't seem to inform character. It doesn't seem to be motivated by anything, and then explained afterwards. So you're engaged in the stakes of it before, and then relieved when it comes through afterwards. And the characters comment on it or learn from it. No, it's just like, hey, look, they're jumping across buildings now. Okay.
Yeah. Is Jim actually helpful? Like when he gets zapped back in time, does he really help?
He pulls Biggles out of the crashed plane.
Right.
That's the idea. That they're time twins. And they will manifest in each other's timeline as soon as the other is in mortal danger, which, of course, pulls Biggles back through to the 80s at one point when Jim, for some reason, is in a firefight with the British police.
Right.
Which happens, of course.
Which, by the way, did you notice that they silence an intended obscenity in that moment?
Really?
Yeah. I'm like first viewing. It's the only viewing. Let's be clear. Only viewing. He doesn't realize that he's caught up in the moment of, unloading that submachine gun. And suddenly he's mowing down police cars in the middle of London with people milling around them, including William Hootkins. And Debbie, or whatever her name is trying to get him to stop. You see Jim say shit as the cops, but there's no sound because they've clearly decided, we can't have curse words in this. We got to try and,
But there is a curse word at the start.
Right, that's true. But for some reason, they cut his shit, no pun intended, out of the scene.
They just needed the one curse word. They reached their quota. Yeah, I mean, that scene was odd as well because he gets back to the present day with the machine gun and he just keeps firing.
Yes.
Like he's obviously in the modern times.
Right.
Like there are cars.
He is American, sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
It's crazy how he just keeps firing at these police. And and then you have this like ridiculous chase sequence.
Yeah.
The helicopter.
In fact, I think Conrad makes a good point. That moment is probably the most American moment for Jim Ferguson. Like right there. And I mean that with my tongue firmly in my cheek. But like, it's like, finally the American steps up, and then it's like, now he's totally lost the plot and he doesn't realize he's back in 1986 and he's shooting at cop cars.
Yeah.
Just when you were about to be a hero, Jim Ferguson, you turn into a villain.
I mean, it's weird because Jim is like simultaneously useless,
yes,
but also very capable.
Right.
Like he gets handed a gun and he just uses it as if he's always used a gun before. Like,
right.
But then he never hits anyone. Like, when he's in the plane shooting at the plane chasing them, like he never hits them. I'm surprised he didn't shoot the tail off the plane. Like it's
right.
Yeah, as in
a movie that would come out 3 years later. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then that chase sequence, they're jumping between buildings, this impossible gap, and he's just doing it because why not? Like,
right.
Like a normal human wouldn't be able to do that. And it's so strange. Like he's so capable, but also so unhelpful in most of the scenes.
And just to be clear, he is a TV dinner marketing person.
Yeah, exactly. He's not some secret like past spy or have special skills or anything. He's just a marketing guy. Like,
yeah. And maybe that helps us reconcile some of his terrible deliveries when he's trying to be cool. Like when Biggles and him are in the helicopter for the final mission or whatever, and he turns to Jim Ferguson and he's got that Sterling submachine gun and he goes, "Let's kick some ass." And I'm like, oh, that sounds like what a marketing person would say at some kind of like retreat team building camp for paintball.
Yeah.
You know? Oh. Yeah.
What did people think of the big sort of the plot point of this sonic weapon, this weapon of mass destruction?
That's one of the bits that I actually found quite engaging as a kid. I like inserting science fiction into World War II and World War One. I love suddenly discovering that the Nazis have got a moon base or robots on their airships. I do enjoy that strain of science fiction action adventure. So that little tinge of it did pique my interest as a kid, that the Nazis have developed a sonic weapon. And this was around about the time that in England we were starting to get microwave ovens. So we could get the concept that there could be this invisible radiation that can cook things.
Right.
I know America had microwaves long before that, but we were late bloomers.
Depends on the region of the country.
Yeah, I liked the Hitchcock MacGuffin of it all.
I liked the implementation of the sonic weapon because it's a classic trope of fictionalized World War I and or World War II pulp adventure, where you have a force that has developed something, even though they're historically framed, whether you're talking about Captain America going after Red Skull or in some kind of parallel, it's Indiana Jones realizing that the Nazis are going to try and develop the Ark of the Covenant into some kind of weapon that they can use, to defeat the Allied powers. So it's a very well-established, successful trope. And yet it only would have worked effectively, I think, if they had stayed in the World War I timeline. If they keep bouncing back and forth, it gets lost. I kept thinking to myself, is this movie about the time travel paradox, or is it about this weapon that's only sort of coming back into the plot every now and then? Because if I've seen the 80s and they're fine, then I'm not plugging into what kind of time travel they're doing here. And it seems like the time travel they're doing is more Terminator-based, where, the future hasn't been written yet, even though we're in the future, because Jim Ferguson hasn't helped Biggles stop the thing in the past. But if he doesn't stop the thing in the past, then maybe the future will be different when he gets back. But that's also not the way the timeline apparently works, because Biggles is the one that helped him get the photo to begin with. So what's the, Like it just, I got lost with that. And I feel like that sacrificed the sonic weapon on the altar of confusion.
Yeah.
They never showed a scene where Jim and the audience understand what's at stake. If you're going to have him flitting back and forth, then you have to have some exchange or some moment in the movie where he goes back and fails at whatever he was supposed to do. And when he comes back to the present, he sees that something has changed for the negative.
Yeah.
And he goes, the future of my life with Debbie, the future of my celebrity TV dinners is at stake. The future of all this is going to go away if I don't solve this problem. But there's only just Peter Cushing's word. And don't get me wrong, Peter Cushing could tell me that there was nothing but elves in the phone book, and I'd believe him because he's Peter Cushing. But I feel like for the movie to work logically, you've got to have Jim Ferguson realize, if I don't follow through on what this phenomenon keeps sending me to do, things are changing for the worse.
Yeah, like Back to the Future too. Yeah,
there aren't any consequences or motivations for Jim. I don't know why he's doing it.
No.
I don't know what he learns or gains from it.
Nothing, because apparently even the phenomenon keeps happening. It's going to keep happening to him his whole life. He gets sucked out of his own marriage ceremony. It's like, what?
Whereupon he quips that he'd rather go on an adventure with Biggles than get married.
Because that's totally what his attitude was in the scene right before he got pulled into the final bit.
Yeah, weak old British Empire tropes about primitivism and guys in pith helmets roped together in a giant cauldron being boiled alive, surrounded by people in loincloths and masks.
That's what threw me off the most, was because you had a fairly solid depiction of World War I, and then the final scenario is like a Monty Python sketch.
Yes, exactly.
You're like, what?
Yeah.
In terms of felicity to the source material, the other thing that it would be worth mentioning is Biggles' companions.
Yes.
Who do appear in the film. They are represented, Ginger, Bertie, and Algie. They don't have a great deal to do. They have a rescue to do. I can't say that any of them stand out as having individual characteristics of any kind because they don't really have enough screen time to develop those. They're just sort of there. And at the same time, we've also got Debbie, and for some reason, the most crass person in the office, Chuck, who keeps coming along on everything. Like, he jokes about going to England with them, and I thought, why? And he actually does. It's not a joke. He's there when you cut to England. And then you see him at the wedding. They deliberately invited him to their wedding?
After he tried to get him arrested and thrown in prison for being a crazy person.
Yes.
Yeah.
My point being, there are a lot of characters in this movie.
Yeah.
Does this serve it in any way?
I liked how they brought Debbie back because that was interesting to me because normally in these type of time travel movies, you only have one person going backwards and forwards.
That's true.
And seeing Debbie, she acted the way I wanted Jim to act.
Yeah.
She's like, what the hell is going on? Why are we here? Oh my God, it's wartime. Is this a dream? Like, that's how I wanted Jim to act.
Right.
It was also interesting how they brought back a helicopter back to World War One, similar to like the Final Countdown. You bring back a modern piece of technology to World War One, and that's pivotal in the climax where they use the helicopter because it's one of the journalists' reporter helicopter, so it's got a microphone speaker thing, and they use that against the sonic weapon. They use sound to fight sound, and that's interesting. But yeah, I don't know about everything else. Like, you're quite right, Conrad. Like, all the characters are kind of just background. They're just extras.
Yes.
I mean, there's a villain. I mean, he's very cliche, but, you know, there's the villain.
Yeah, and he's from the source material. That villain was Biggles' main nemesis in the books.
Okay.
Right.
So that's good. I do wonder how they knew that they could get that helicopter into one of those lightning strike time rifts when the lightning strikes are always random. I don't know how they did that. They didn't have a dial of destiny, dare I say, to tell them.
No.
But as far as his companions, 3 of the 4 major ones are there, but oddly, the mechanic Smythe is missing.
Yeah.
But I do want to add that my favorite scene in the whole film is where Ginger and Bertie and Algernon go to liberate the convent, where they stand in that courtyard. You know, they take out all the Germans in the courtyard. I was like, finally, we're having like a grounded action moment. You know, I can get with this a little bit. So
Yeah.
Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies, that's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends. Same adorable designs in different cuts for each of you, all made from their signature ultramodal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 5-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST. That's MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.
At IUP, grad school works with my life and my career goals. With 60 programs, online, on campus, full or part-time, Indiana University of Pennsylvania will open doors for your career. Visit iup.edu.
I did want to ask, who do you think is the target audience for this movie? Because it's confusing, because there are certain scenes that are quite violent. So I feel like not kids. But then it feels like a kid's movie, kind of, as well.
I think Conrad made a really good point at the top of this episode when he talked about how there was no opportunity based on the direction they took for parents or grandparents of young kids to go to the movie and have a shared experience. Where the grandfather is saying, oh yeah, you know, I maintained these planes in the war, or I was an officer in the Royal Flying Corps, or Pulp Adventure, it's not specifically focused on older audiences. If it's done right, it pulls in a broader audience like Indiana Jones. It can pull in a broader audience. But the reason it's able to pull in that broader audience is because it connects the older audience to things that they're intrinsically familiar with and have experienced. And it makes it that kind of multi-generational bridge to the other people who are initially enjoying the action, the dialogue, the quips, and everything like that. But as they watch it more and more, if they're on their 50th viewing of Raiders, I wouldn't know anything about that, they suddenly start to learn the history almost through osmosis, and they start to learn the details about things. And then they find out that their grandfather was, involved in that, or that their dad knew a guy. And so the Biggles movie threw that away by putting this whole sci-fi plot in that really interrupts the proceedings.
Yeah, it's curious because although the production design and the execution of the World War I scenes is good in the way that, it's all here in Europe, in Britain anyway, so it's sort of muscle memory for us to produce this sort of stuff. It doesn't really take it very seriously, or at least it doesn't, because you're cutting back and forth, you don't feel as though you're imbued in it long enough to really feel the stakes for Europe or the stakes for the characters.
Right.
You get the sense that some nuns might get bothered, but other than that, it's all a little bit abstract.
Right.
And that feels like it does it a disservice. It doesn't feel as though it's could be something that the teacher could put on at school for a rainy afternoon and treat it as a gateway into learning about World War One. It's just too thin for that.
Yeah, and I just found it a bit violent for kids. I don't know. What was your impression of it as a kid watching it, Conrad?
I mean, it was fine for me because I didn't see much that I wasn't used to anyway. I mean, when you compare it to something like Raiders of the Lost Ark that was also a PG and that's got, Nazis' faces melting, which again, as a kid, I absolutely loved. It terrified me, but I loved it.
I think a lot of people were traumatized by that scene.
Yeah, I think they were. This is just lots of machine guns and you don't really see anybody get shot particularly, do you? Well, I guess you do. Some people fall over, but I mean, it's not gruesome except for that one scene that I really like where they have to demonstrate the secret weapon, and I quite like all the business about sort of crumbling the artillery in your hands because it's just turned into like powder. And I think Biggles leans down and takes the arm of one of the corpses and it rips off. And then for some reason, Debbie, having seen both of these things, and we see a reaction shot, so we know that she decides to get on her hands and knees, and it feels like she just like pulls the eye out of a dead German.
Literally.
And scream while she's doing it. And it's like, Debbie, if that's not enjoyable, don't do it. Just stop.
I had the same reaction. I was like, why is she doing that?
Yes.
Like, why?
Yeah, I was very confused by that scene. Like, if you've seen all this devastation, why do you stick your hand in someone's eye socket and pull their eyeball out? Makes zero sense. Zero sense.
And then she immediately hugs Jim Ferguson, and I'm like, his jacket's ruined. I'm like, is it?
Oh, yeah.
So I see what you mean. There are, I think it's going for Raiders. I think it is going for Raiders of the Lost Ark level gore and hoping that it can get away with it.
Because I had an idea for how it could have been better. So instead of Jim being a 25-year-old or however old he is, 30, have him be a kid. Have a kid be like zapped back in time. And then it would be more of a, I don't know, a relatable movie as a kid. Or even
like
a teenager.
Like a kid in King Arthur's court or whatever that's called?
Yeah. Or like a teenager. Have him like Marty McFly's age, being zapped back in time. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
But he's a bit older. And I don't know whether that works.
It could have been really poignant, actually, because, I mean, the average age of the soldier in the trenches during the First World War is just shockingly young.
Yeah.
So, he could be some really flippant, dumb teenager who suddenly meets somebody in the trenches and forms a bond with them. And then when he finds out...
Character arc.
Yeah, you're 18? It could have been a growth moment to meet somebody who's facing life or death consequences whilst trying to secure the future of the entire European continent. But no, we don't get that. I like that idea.
We get the president of celebrity
TV dinners with his Arnold Schwarzenegger cardboard cutout.
And can I please ask, as relates to Jim Ferguson, What was he wearing when he arrived in London?
Oh, Jesus.
Ooh.
The costumes.
What? Like, what? He's walking along Tower Bridge, and I'm going, wait a minute. So he's got a really bad Stetson fedora on with a G2 World War II aviator jacket with half-height cowboy boots tucked with a primary blue Ghostbusters onesie underneath all of it.
And purple fingerless gloves, I noticed.
I didn't even notice that, and I'm not surprised. Like,
that was his I'm traveling to London outfit.
Yeah.
I mean, he should have been turned back at the border, frankly.
Yes, we will deny you this visa because this is we're allowing an asylum inmate into our country. Like, I was like, this is another indicator of the producers wanting everything to be hip in some way. Like every jacket he wears in the movies, like throughout, it's some very on trend, but like extreme trend 80s jacket. Like it's nothing just standard fare. And then of course, you see the punks and everything like that later on. There was a producer that was just like, we've got to have 80s synth rock in this. We've got to have our 80s guy with his power flow haircut and his, eclectic grandpa fashion choices. Like it's the whole thing just doesn't work. It really pulled me out of the movie. I kept getting pulled out of the movie by things like that.
Yeah.
And then when he's not clothed, I'm wondering, did they even bother to put a modesty patch under that towel? Because I was shocked. I did freeze frame. I tried. I was even thinking about taking a screenshot and pulling it into Photoshop and like brightening it up and see. Like I'm not above it. I have no shame. I'll look.
I looked as well.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen the movie, and God bless you if you haven't, there is a scene where Jim is transported back to the World War I era when he is least expecting it. He's in the bathroom naked. He manages to grab a hand towel and somehow fasten that around his waist, but he ends up lying back on a table that is shaped like a crucifix, beneath a crucifix upon which, there is an effigy of Jesus crucified, surrounded by nuns who appear to be, I don't know, baking bread or something. The camera angle that John Hoffa's chosen is slightly elevated, but from the feet up. So he lies back in a hand towel and you just get a shot straight up there. Now, I looked and looked and looked. I think what you can see is a bulge contained within a flesh-coloured dance belt. I don't think we're seeing meat and two veg in there, but I am open to counter-arguments.
I'm hoping that you're correct. I would have to believe that's the case, given that there were other actors present in the scene.
Well, yeah, there's a whole brace of women stood there in nuns' habits. I mean, they're not going to be staring down the barrel of Alex Hyde White's junk for 3 hours while they get the lighting right. I mean, geez, I hope not. Anyway, it was the 80s, though, so who knows?
I know, but no, you're right. Like, I'm pretty sure there was some sort of modesty apparatus underneath there, but boy, the angle was...
The angle was
not good.
John Hoff, really.
Did you notice the flashlight placement later on?
No.
When they're in the tunnels and they're trying to snake their way through to get to the German weapon experiment site, and they have those torches, Jim somehow manages to attach his to his waistline where it dangles right in front of his batch. Like the whole time. And I couldn't keep my eyes off it. I was like, why did they put that there? Like he's fighting a German soldier who comes around the corner and all I see is that light right in front of his, just like bouncing around. I'm going, wow, okay.
It's not a great choice, is it?
No.
Now it's time for Random Trivia.
So, Michael, seeing as you went back in time and discovered your time twin, do you have any fascinating trivia you brought back from World War I today?
I do, as a matter of fact. We've been talking a lot about the band Yes, but the Pet Shop Boys is also tied to Biggles because Neil Dixon, who starred as the title character, reprised his role in Everything But Name in the 1988 Pet Shop Boys movie titled It Couldn't Happen Here. And he ends up playing a version of his character Biggles barely 2 years after being in the movie Biggles.
Right.
So is it the sequel or...
It's a strange backdoor alternate universe sequel with him as Biggles.
Okay.
But they never say his name for licensing, purposes.
Yeah.
But he's basically Biggles in the scene. Yeah.
And it's made by the Pet Shop Boys.
Yes, it's a movie that's the movie was produced by the Pet Shop Boys. It couldn't happen here. Well, it was starring the Pet Shop Boys, I should say.
Okay.
But I have to believe that they were in some way responsible for its production as well.
And it's like an actual movie. It's not like a musical or some sort of...
It's an actual movie with a running time of 87 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Oh my God. I did not know this existed.
Yeah. Neil Dixon is a pilot in one scene, fiddling frustratedly with a handheld computer game. But he's a World War I aviator trying to play a handheld computer game. Yep.
Oh.
Starring the Pet Shop Boys as themselves, Joss Ackler, Neil Dixon as a car salesman stroke pilot, Gareth Hunt and Barbara Windsor. What the actual hell is this? I want to check this out now. That sounds insane.
On the next movie, Oubliette, it couldn't happen here.
And that's our trivia.
Yes.
So we ought to talk about the music. We've referenced it a couple of times. John Anderson and Stanislav Cyrowicz. We had this problem the last time we came up against this composer because he composed a score for Lair of the White Worm. And we couldn't pronounce it then either, I checked. I have to say, from Lair of the White Worm, I hated that score with a passion. It's very basic synthesizer scoring.
Yeah. Is that a synclavier?
It sounds like it could
like
be,
it, right?
yeah.
Because it sounds like sampled
sample-based.
instruments on a keyboard.
Yeah.
Like some of it sounds panpipey or harpsichordy, but it doesn't sound like a real instrument. But it doesn't quite sound like a synth as well. It doesn't sound completely electronic. It sounds cheap to me. That's what it sounds. It sounds like TV movie cheap.
Yeah. Which is what you said about his Lair of the White Worm
Did
score.
I?
And I think it doubly applies here. It makes the film look cheap. And John Anderson's contributions. Now, I also love John Anderson's voice. Big fan of Owner of a Lonely Heart. Mm-hmm. I'm mildly charmed by his vocal on the Tangerine Dream cue, which was done without Tangerine Dream's approval by all accounts, which was plugged into the End of Legend when they rescored that and ditched Jerry Goldsmith's score. But I don't really like that version of the film as much as the Jerry Goldsmith European version. But the song's okay. So it feels like he was doing a lot of this at the time. I don't know if Yes were in a hiatus and he was trying to start up a solo career. But honestly, there is a second song in this and it's called Chocks Away. And I think he's trying to do like a 1930s high energy jazz number, like something that a flapper would dance to. And his voice is all filtered and he's trying to do like a clipped British accent. I mean, he is an English singer, but and it's just like doing that all the way through an action scene with a helicopter. And it's just got this comedy synthesizer 30s flapper song with John Anderson honking on it. And I wanted to switch over to Lady Hawk instead. That's how grating that scene is. It's possibly one of the worst things I've heard on Movie Oubliette, frankly.
I mean, I did also have comparisons to Lady Hawk. Like it really did take you out of all of those action sequences when you have this almost obnoxiously 80s sounding music. Like it's like offensively 80s.
It sounds like something the South Park guys would spoof in one of their song ballads. Like,
you're right.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I came away from this. This didn't feel to me, although I watched it as a kid, I didn't look at it and think this is a, pleasing nostalgia item. This feels like the parody, as you say, Michael. This looks like what you would do if you were trying to do something that looks like how shit the 80s was.
Yes.
You'd do this.
Yes.
It makes me ashamed, whereas many of the other sort of childhood items I've brought to Dan's attention to see how he reacts to them. I'm not ashamed of them, and it's only until he sees them that I suddenly see them through fresh eyes and think, oh, actually, that's a bit crap. But yeah, this is just crap from the get-go. It's
because it was too on trend. They were more focused on trying to make it, quote, hip than make the story authentic.
Yeah, they're trying too hard.
Yeah, I'm always surprised when they take something that's really beloved.
Yep.
Like Biggles, there's a massive fan base for Biggles. If they just made a Biggles movie in the time period, it would have done much, much better than this. And it would have been a better movie. But yeah, making it this 80s product, it doesn't age well at all.
No, if they could have gotten Biggles made in 66, 68, something like that, it would probably have fared far better than trying to make an 80s movie out of a 30s derived character.
Yeah, and there are so many great examples of how to do that.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, when we're talking about 30s characters, I feel like more of them, they tried it out in the early 90s. You know, you had that weird original Captain America movie, which also does the thing that brings into the present too fast.
Really?
You know, it's trying to make it a 90s movie.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Hey, if you want movie Oubliette to go down in a blaze of glory.
It is atrocious.
Then you have, you've got Dick Tracy, you've got The Shadow, you've got The Phantom. Those all kind of came out in that early to mid 90s block.
That's
and they're
true.
all from the 30s. Well,
yeah.
Dick Tracy's technically from the 20s, but I won't get too OCD about that. And you also had them attempting things that were throwback salutes that were developed in the 80s, like The Rocketeer. They got developed in the early 90s to be movies. So, yeah, if they had stayed true to the character itself, being even closer in 85, 86 to the success of Indiana Jones, I think they would have done well for themselves. I think by the time you get to the early 90s, things like The Rocketeer and The Shadow fail. One fails because its script isn't so good, but The Rocketeer fails because I think that was just truly out of vogue at that point. It wasn't resonating with kids that were raised on Ninja Turtles. They weren't gonna pick up on that anymore.
Yeah,
but if Biggles had been, because they go into production less than a year after Temple of Doom.
Right.
So if you had just captured that zeitgeist instead of pivoting to whatever this was, then I think we would have been okay.
Yeah. Whatever this was sums it up quite well.
I want to look at that producer and be like, do you want to be a hero? Do you? Because this is not how you do it.
Coming to you live from the Movie Oubliette Theatre, it's the prestigious Mobley Awards.
Okay, it's the Mobley Awards where we nominate our favourite time-jumping parts of the film in a number of sonic weapon dissolving categories.
Best quote.
I say this with all irony that I can muster. I guess my favorite quote is Jim Ferguson's terrible delivery of, "Let's kick some ass." Like, it's so bad. So bad.
Conrad, how about you?
One of my favourites was Algie, who, after they're captured when the Germans are testing their sonic weapon, the dummies are untied from the posts and they're led towards them, and Algie says, "It rather looks as though we're going to be the dummies."
Oh, wow.
And I thought that's a great line for this movie.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
My favorite quote it's quite a silly one. It's when Biggles and Jim are in the biplane and Jim is tasked with shooting, but he's just failing miserably. He's not hitting anything. And then Biggles asks him, "What did they train you for?" And then Jim answers, "Cooking." Any other quotes from people?
I have to point out, it's not a line that I particularly like, but Chuck being particularly revolting when he's talking about their advertising campaign for their TV dinners. He says, "It's modern, it's stylish, it's sexy. It's what young America's all about today. Tits and TV."
Yeah.
Lovely.
I mean, later on in that scene, I did like a line from one of Jim's colleagues referring to Chuck. He says, "Jim, when are we going to dump that mountain of shit?" And that's the only curse word in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Take it back. That's my favorite line. I take it back.
Best hair or costume.
I mean, it's got to be something that Jim's wearing, isn't it? I mean, I quickly noted down the first thing that we see him in, which is a red puffy jacket, black jeans, and those black leather scrunchy boots. Are they called pixie boots or slouch boots? He looks like an extra from a Thriller video.
Yep. And I would say that the Tower Bridge outfit is definitely neck and neck with that one, because he's got like a light gray pair of the same scrunchy boots, and he's wearing that primary blue, Mystery Science Theater jumpsuit with a World War II jacket and a fedora and those fingerless gloves. And I mean, what are we doing, people? Like this.
This is an adult.
Yeah, I can still see this when I shut my eyes, and
Most 80s moment.
What's the most 80s thing in this 80s movie? That looks like a parody of the 80s.
There's so many choices.
So many.
It's painful.
Yeah. Sonically, the music, every scene with all that music is just, it's too much. They went too far.
Yeah, the opening seconds of the movie are so 80s that everything else that's so 80s is just racing to catch up.
Sure.
Even the 12 or 8 London punks who are there with their, boombox cassette players and everything, they are super 80s. With Ferguson there in that 80s jacket he's wearing, even that has a hard time competing with just the opening seconds of the credits. Like just, yeah.
Yeah, Time Traveler comes into contact with 80s punks is the cliche I noted down. It at least happens in the Terminator and Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, which then tiptoes into my second choice, which was the whole 1986 of, hey, Back to the Future was a big success, maybe we ought to do time travel. So I'm thinking of Flight of the Navigator, Peggy Sue Got Married, Highlander, and this, all with time travel in them to try and add a twist to some sort of other property.
Sure.
Favorite scene?
My favorite scene in a fishbowl is when Biggles' comrades liberate the convent, when they go into that courtyard and they fight the Germans. That's my favorite scene, just from a legacy viewer of war films. I liked that. But as far as my favorite scene from the movie itself, as the plot demands, I actually liked the scene with Peter Cushing meeting Biggles again for the first time after all those years, because he's such a great actor, and Neil Dixon is a good actor. He does a really good job in the role of Biggles, being told what he has to do. I was really glad that Jim Ferguson was pushed to the doorway behind the both of them and had no lines, and that was good. Yeah. We were able to have that moment. So that was probably my favorite plot-derived scene in the film, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. The second one you mentioned there was mine. I actually found that moving, and I think that's what a great actor like Peter Cushing can do. And Neil Dixon held up his end of the bargain too. No, he looked genuinely overwhelmed to see his friend again.
Yeah.
And I bought it, and it just reminded me what a class act Peter Cushing was.
Yep.
Most cliche moment.
I am going to nominate A Woman in an Underground Layer is Surprised by a Skeleton or a Corpse.
Oh, yeah.
Seems to happen a lot, particularly after Marion's run in Raiders. But I think it's in King Solomon's Mines, although I haven't seen that. It's also in The Mummy, which obviously is indebted to both of those texts, and National Treasure. But it just seems to happen to women a lot. Skeletons fall on them.
Very true.
Yeah. In this movie, Debbie is such a throwaway moment. It just seems to come from nowhere, like it was stuck to the ceiling and the blue tack gave way. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. Cliche for you, Michael?
Yeah, cliche for me is going to be the enemy plane coming in at the last second, and she's running out to Biggles, and he's running toward her. And I said,
yes,
she gonna get hit. And sure enough, she got, bulleted. Now, she didn't die, obviously, but they played it up to the hilt as much as they could before they pulled the fast one and brought her back, even though she was shot through the neck or something like that. So,
yes, she was resurrected by a beam of celestial light in a church, no less.
Right.
Dan,
cliche. I gotta say, it's a portrayal of Chuck. So he's the overweight guy, and he's just obsessed with food, apparently. So he takes a bite out of one of the drumsticks from the TV dinner. Even in the wedding at the end, he pulls out the ring, but his pockets are just full of lollies for whatever reason, because he's fat, I guess. But it's just, what a cliche.
Yeah. That's a good call, actually. I didn't pick up on that. But yeah, also the overweight guy being just foul, grotesque.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, another cliche. For sure.
Best special effect.
I got to say, all the practical explosions were just huge. Even the plane at the start. And these are all full-size explosions, right? These aren't miniatures.
Yeah.
We're seeing. These are huge, huge explosions. In the trenches, bombs going off, all sorts of things blowing up. It is crazy seeing all of this. Like, it's really nice. I think, Michael, you mentioned seeing practical effects, full-size practical effects as well. Really impressive.
Yeah. There's a lovely moment in the behind the scenes where a guy is setting up the explosions in the trench and he's putting debris on top of it, and then he's got a bucket of powder and cork and stuff that he's sort of piling over it and saying, yeah, so you'll get some large chunks and then you'll get this big cloud, and unless the cloud's there you can't really see it, and all this. He really cares about his explosions.
Right.
He's an artist of explosions.
They look
lovely.
incredible.
Yeah. Well, that's the talent of the British film crews as a legacy, let alone in the late 70s and early 80s when the dollar was, I guess, beneficial against the pound or something. And so so many films were made over there. But that just means that you could get a lot done over there for a lot less. And they really knew what they were doing. I mean, my favorite effect is one I'm loath to mention, not because it's bad. It's a really good effect. I'm loath to mention it because it gives me the willies, but it's the eye coming out of that guy's face. Like, it's just, it's gross, but it's not cheesy gross. It's like, oh, don't, and then it happens, and I'm like, ugh, and I'm just, but it's really effective. Like, it was really well done, so that's my choice. Like, just, ugh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Favorite sound effect.
More of a sound design choice, but at the start when Jim gets brought back to the modern time from the past, and he's just experienced all of this war and gunfire, so he thinks he hears a machine gun, but then it kind of morphs into a jackhammer, and it's kind of a nice little bit of sound design. Enjoyed that.
Yes, I noticed that. Very much like Curse of the Cat People, where some galloping horses turn into a train.
Yeah.
Or a car.
Yeah,
it's a car.
Yeah.
How about you, Michael?
The sound effect that stood out to me was the laser beam sound effect of the sonic weapon, because I've heard it in other productions, and yet my brain failed me. I couldn't place it.
Yeah, it sounds very familiar.
It does.
For me, it sounds like it would have been in like one of the Salkind productions that were happening in the UK at the same time, like Supergirl or Superman 3. It sounds like one of the cheap ones.
Right.
Santa Claus the movie. It sounds like it was in one of those, but I can't quite place it.
Most funniest moment.
I'll say Jim sitting patiently all night in a World War I uniform, holding a bayonet, and for some reason an Uzi, waiting to be teleported back to Biggles time, only to be discovered asleep by Julie, the hotel cleaning lady, who chortles her way out of the room. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I guess the funniest scene for me is probably going to be where he just doesn't realize he's back in the 80s and he's still just gunning down those police cars. And it's capped off by him visibly saying shit and then no audio.
Yeah.
That to me is the best. With second place runner up, Dick Torch. Dick Torch is pretty funny.
Right.
So.
And that's our Moobly Awards.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Catherine Mary Stewart, and you are listening to Movie Oubliette.
All right, it's final verdict time. Should Biggles' Adventures in Time be zapped out of the Oubliette to be adored once more, or should it be shot by World War I Germans and retreat back into the Oubliette to eat celebrity TV dinners for eternity, forgotten once more? All right, final verdicts for Biggles. Michael.
I'm going to go against every assumption people probably have about me in these scenarios. For a counterintuitive reason, I think Biggles should be removed from the Oubliette and given back to pop culture because it is the one touch point that we have to a long-standing pulp novella character that ran for 100 novels, and his content has been collected up in various omnibuses and stuff. But for a lot of people who don't know anything about it and they might be interested in going back and reading it if they had the awareness, this might be their one opportunity. And the other reason I would want to keep it visible is because it's Peter Cushing's final movie performance, and he does such a great job. So I really feel like for those reasons, I'm going to advocate for it staying out of the Oubliette.
Oh.
Unexpected
outcome. I did not expect it. Conrad, how about you?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any secret here. I think it's atrocious. Put it this way. I hated it in 1986. I thought it was naff. I really did think it was terrible, which is funny because one of the extras on this Blu-ray is a segment from the Saturday Superstore, a British Saturday morning TV magazine show in which a child reviews Biggles, having seen the premiere or had a free ticket or something. And this kid's talking about it having the best special effects he's ever seen. I thought, you need to get out more, kid. No, I think this is fatally flawed for all the reasons we've discussed, just in terms of its concept and its execution. And although the production design, the performance of Biggles, for example, I think Neil Dixon does a great job. Alex Hyde-White's got nothing to work with, but he doesn't help it by just looking blank and disinterested the entire movie. It's got some fine elements, but that's just people doing a good job with a terrible concept and a terrible script. And the end result, I know that there are some kind reviews that say, at least it's never dull. Well, you know... That's like saying a visit to the dentist is never dull. It's still shit.
I've been on some dates where I said that after it was over.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't think there's anything here to be affectionate about at all in retrospect. So I would throw it back quite merrily. How about you, Dan? You'd never seen it before.
No. Well, yeah, I had read some Biggles books. This is not the adaptation I was expecting reading Biggles. Like, what? No. What were they thinking? What were they thinking? It's like, let's take Lord of the Rings and we'll just insert constant time travel with this 80s guy to 80s music. It just doesn't work. It really doesn't work. I loved all the World War I stuff, though. If they'd just made it the period piece, even with one time travel, with Jim going back, and then the entire movie, he's just back in time. That would have worked. That would have been fine. Yeah. But just constant time travel, it's irritating. I will have to say, if I had seen this movie as a child, I think I would have loved it because I was really into World War I stuff. I was constantly drawing biplanes and I had a huge fascination for that time period. I think I would have enjoyed it more if Jim was maybe a kid, though, getting thrown back in time as opposed to a TV dinner president. It's not the career I would have aspired to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't recommend this to anyone. Like I imagine being a Biggles fan and finally getting a Biggles movie, and this is it.
You would be crushed.
Yeah. Like, imagine being a Masters of the Universe fan and, yeah, this is on that magnitude. It is skating on that same ice.
Well, no, that's not for me. It's not for me.
That's a no. Well, it's 2-1 in our vote, but we've got to check in with our trusty patrons. Hello, Gary. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Time continues.
Can we have the patrons vote, please?
They set it free. Lessons were not learned.
What?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. Got to hear some comments, please.
Tally ho, let this biplane bromance fly out of the oubliette, says Wicked Person. I hadn't seen it before, though I had heard a huge number of references to Biggles in British and even Australian entertainment. The dogfights are surprisingly gripping and it just kept getting more and more bizarre. Definitely stayed committed hard to the central concept throughout. It needs to win some kind of award for the most audacious in-dialogue plot hole justifying spoken lines ever. And starring the Corman Reeds Richards himself as Jim Ferguson, annoyingly glib 80s protagonist guy.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Jasmine says, Biggles is a movie I remember being excited to finally see back in the university days, and I remember liking it, but was troubled that I could remember so little about it until now. Upon rewatch, I understand. It's a fun and exciting romp worthy of oubliette escape. Neil Dixon is just wonderful as Biggles, and this is a lovely final bow for legendary Peter Cushing. But shockingly, Alex Hyde White's Ferguson is a blank slate of a character whose bravado, heroism I could not accept for a millisecond. William Hootkin's comedy relief character is puzzling aside from requisite dated fat jokes. Same point that you made, Dan. Yeah. One moment he's betraying our leads to get them arrested, and in another moment he's best man at their wedding.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly. But yeah, everyone seems to love it. So we are tied.
Coin of fate time.
The coin of fate.
Yeah, so coin of fate for the first episode.
Michael, what do you choose? Heads or tails?
I will always choose in an aviation movie, tails.
Ah, good call. So tails for setting it free. Here we go. It's tails.
What? I've never had such conflicted feelings about that because I feel responsible.
Wow.
So the regular hosts of this show both think this movie stinks, but the patrons and our guest have set it free for all kinds of different reasons and very valid ones.
Thank you for saying that because I don't think this movie's good.
No.
It stinks. Okay?
But apparently it's entertaining and memorable and deserves to be preserved for a number of different reasons. And I accept that as reasons for letting things out of the oubliette.
Yeah. All right, let's set it free. Bye, Biggles.
Chucks away, chaps.
What a plot twist.
Indeed. What an opener for the year. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for joining us for this. I can't think of a better co-pilot. Where can people follow you and what can they look forward to on Retro Blasting this year?
Well, they can follow me over at the YouTube channel Retro Blasting. We're also on Facebook and whatever they call Twitter now. And we won't really use those. We're on Instagram. We don't really use a lot of those. I'm working on a big feature right now that I hope to be done with in a few days. Hopefully it'll be out by the time this episode is airing. Is a big retrospective on King Solomon's Mines and all of its various cinematic incarnations.
Ooh. Oh, wow. Very apt.
It's had 4 major incarnations. I go into the book, of course, at the beginning from H. Rider Haggard and then talk about how the various iterations reflect the time in which they're made and that kind of thing. Then after that, it's more pop culture shenanigans.
Oh, great.
Can't wait. No, I'm fascinated to see the King Solomon's Mines retrospective because I haven't even seen the 80s film and it's scored by Jerry Goldsmith.
It is. And I can tell you just in the shorthand, the score is the only thing probably worth experiencing for that movie.
Okay.
But when you see the retrospective, you'll understand why. And you'll be like, Michael saved me some time. So unless you decide it's a contender for movie oubliette, in which case...
It could well be. There is something about Sharon Stone playing a damsel in distress that is just irresistible. But we'll see.
And listeners, if you want to follow Movie Oubliette, we are on all platforms and you can email us directly at movie.oubliette@gmail.com.
If you want to support the show, head on over to Patreon, where you can get a number of different bonuses for a number of different amounts of money.
Yes. We've got merchandise on Redbubble, our YouTube channel, and please rate and review us if you haven't already.
We love it.
Yes. All right. Conrad, next episode 2 of 2026, what's it going to be?
Well, we are switching language, decade, and genre. And we are tackling our second Giallo movie and our second movie directed by Lucio Fulci. It is the 1972 film Don't Torture a Duckling.
Yes, it's been on my watch list for many, many years.
I had never heard of it, so I'm intrigued. And seeing as the only Fulci I've seen so far is Conquest.
A fantasy film.
And a very odd one at that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It should be fun.
Yes. Thanks again, Michael, for joining us. First episode of the year in full outfit as well. I am very impressed with the commitment.
Okay. Until next time, everyone. Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Tally ho, everyone.
We review the films others tend to forget. Come with us and open up the movie Oubliette.
Jim, we got a glitch in the mashed potatoes.
Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies, that's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends. Same adorable designs in different cuts for each of you, all made from their signature ultramodal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 5-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST. That's MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.